I've been wanting to make a video for a little bit. I'm sorry that I made some of you wait for that. Um, I have a lot of, I have things I want to talk about, but at the same time, sometimes I realize that some of the stuff that I want to talk about is different, but mostly the same stuff over and over. And I think innately it's always going to be like that to some extent, but I've been taking a little bit longer recently to kind of put together my thoughts and things like that. Um, for a while I've been writing down things that I'm thinking about, but lately I've really been like trying to just write down everything I'm thinking in like a paragraph and then figuring out how to sum it up as like a point and then putting that into a separate document so that I have a bunch of points for the sake of talking about them with you guys. So, yeah. There might be some more cuts and things in this video than the last ones just because I want to make sure I get to everything, but, yeah. So, that's taking a little bit more time just because I've been trying to make sure that I have all my thoughts, but also things that I haven't really talked about too much, in the other videos. At the same time, it's nice to talk about similar things. Maybe your thought process has changed even in the span of a couple weeks. That can happen. I would say generally, from what I remember, I think it's pretty much the same right now for me, but still, it's something to know, to think about. Anyway. This also took way too long. My computer updated and stuff while I was trying to get this set up, so it's taken like an hour and a half to get this all to the point where I can talk to you. So I had things fresh on the mind, and now it's a little all over the place. So again, sorry for that. This also wasn't where I was going to do this originally, but it's a nice vibe. I like it enough. I think it's alright. Anyway. The day that you're watching this, it isn't the case right now. It's about a week before, but, the day that this is uploaded, it is my birthday. Woo! Yeah, good stuff, I guess. May the 12th, in case, you know, you're not wanting to just look at the date or something like that. Just for reference. It's weird. Birthdays are weird. It's something that, like, I think about in a different way in the last, like, I don't know exactly where I would actually pinpoint it, but, you know, when I was a young kid, like, really young, I did have some, like, you know, pretty, I don't want to say huge birthday parties, but, you know, a birthday party that was substantial enough in a way, like you invited friends over and you had, like, a handful of friends and, like, plans and things like that, and obviously it was my parents planning it, but still, it was like, there's a whole birthday plan and everything, and, I had a couple of those when I was really young, but I think the last one that I had that was really like that was probably, I don't know, maybe I was turning like 7, I want to say, I don't know, maybe it was a little older than that, I don't know. Whenever, the movie Up came out, and the reason I remember that is because the last kind of thing I would say that was like a birthday party in that way that I had was at a movie theater. It was a movie theater birthday party, and the movie we saw was Up. So, yeah. I don't know. I don't know. But it was alright. I have some old pictures of that, but it was also like really early digital cameras from what I remember, so I think those photos look pretty terrible now if I had to guess. Haven't looked at them in a very long time. But since then, you know, birthdays for me have been like, oh, you know, yeah, you're getting older, cool. You're getting towards those target dates that you want to get to. You're getting closer to being an adult, and it seems very appealing for multiple reasons before you're an adult. But once you're an adult, it's not really. um, but yeah, I didn't really make a big deal out of them. You know, my parents would obviously celebrate them to an extent. I'd get like a gift or something. Um, but nothing like too crazy after that kind of theater one. And even then, it wasn't that crazy, right? But something changed at one point. I don't know when it was, and maybe this probably happens to a lot more people than just me, but at some point it was like, oh, I don't look forward to birthdays anymore. I don't want them to show up, and for multiple reasons, you know. I want to say it was probably around the age of 21. I feel like once I got to the age of 21, I was like, I'm pretty happy here. That's probably why they call it Forever 21, but um but right at around the age of 21, I'm like, I'm good at this age. I feel like this is a good age. I don't want to get older. Don't really have a say in the matter. But for me, that was kind of like, I think, the point where I was, yep, that's good. Because after that, I don't know. I feel as if I got to the point of being like 21 and I was pretty much in the places I was expected to be, for the most part. But right around that age, and when my next birthday came around, I was 22, and then I was 23 and 24, and blah, blah, blah. I feel like I've kind of like stagnated, and I haven't really gone beyond that. And because of that, I don't know, every time that a birthday comes around, it's more like it's like a reminder of, hey, since like, it's been a year since your last birthday. I mean, that's how birthdays work, obviously, but it's been a year since your last birthday, and you kind of think, like, where was I at that time a year ago? How was I feeling? What was I doing? What was I hoping for? That kind of thing. And I feel like my last several birthdays, basically since 21, have just felt like a reminder of you haven't really made that much progress, or you're worse off than you were the last time. And it's not just me that sees that either, you know? I see it with, like, my parents too. When a birthday happens, yeah, sure, they still typically get me, like, a gift or something like that, and I appreciate that, of course. But at the same time, there is that moment of seeing, like, oh, also, it's unspoken, and it's not seen, it's very subtle, but it's there, where it's this sort of, like, you know, they, probably at the same time at 21, they were expecting me to not be in their house anymore. So there's sort of this, like, disappointment of, like, you haven't really done much of anything. You haven't really gone anywhere since then. Like, dude, what are you doing? And you can just sense it. It's just there. It just lingers in the air. But it's there. And, it sucks, but, I mean, it's the case. So yeah. You know, my parents are really, like, the only people nowadays I ever really talk to. Even more now. Since the last video, I've feel like I'm talking to even less people, which I wasn't talking to many people at all. It was mostly people online, very rarely. Now it feels like never. But the way the world goes, I guess. I guess I'm just good at being forgettable, which, yeah. Yeah, I get that. I've kind of figured that out long ago. um, but, yeah, I've seen so many posts online about, people will talk about, um, and things like, oh, I have no one to talk to. And then they'll go into detail about what they mean by that, and it'll usually eventually come up with, like, they have people in their life, but maybe not many, but they have people in their life, but it's not that they don't have anyone to talk to, they just don't have anybody they're comfortable talking to. They could talk to somebody, it's just all the people that they have the ability to talk to, they don't want to talk to, at least in that way. And that is a problem still. It's not like that's not something that isn't a valid issue to have or something. It still is, and they're not wrong in saying they don't have anyone to talk to. It's just a different meaning. There's two meanings of that, right? There's I have no one to talk to because all the people I can talk to I don't want to talk to, or I'm not able to talk to in that way. And then there's I have no one to talk to because there's just nobody. And I know the way I'm saying that makes it seem like I'm saying the same thing, just in a, one's a little bit nicer and another one's a little bit harsher. I'm not trying to say it in that way. I'm literally like, you either have people to talk to, you just don't want to, or you just don't. And yeah. I feel like at this point in my life, I'm kind of in like the I just don't. More so than like people, like I don't have people that I feel comfortable in. Like when I'm thinking, I was thinking about it recently, I was like, there is, I don't know the best way to say it. I don't want to say like a joke, because it's not really a joke, but there's like, a plot point that's sometimes used in certain things when it's about like, something about, let's say a romantic relationship or something, or somebody might put this on like their dating profile or something like that, that'll be like, what do I want from you? I want you to be my emergency contact. So that's why I'm saying like a joke. I guess it is fundamentally. I don't think that's quite where I was going with that, but it's still whatever. The main point is emergency contact, and I was thinking about that recently, and I was like, man, if it isn't my mom or my dad, I wouldn't have anybody else to put on that. Like, sure, I could probably figure it out eventually, maybe, but I don't think anybody that I could put there I'd be comfortable with being in that. And when I thought about that, I was like, man, that really sucks. It just kind of puts things into perspective. It's like, man, if you can't think of somebody you're going to put on like your emergency contact, and you can only think of like 2 people, it's better than no one, I guess. But if you can't think of 5 people that you could put on that list, I feel like that's not great. So that's kind of been getting to me a little bit. Among many other things, of course, but that one's really been, like, sticking with me to some extent. I feel like a lot of people can't relate to that feeling of being able to, like, not really having anybody to talk to. You see a lot of other things online, like, if you're somebody that's in a bad place and you're looking up advice or something like that about depression or loneliness or anxiety or whatever you're going through, the advice can be very different, but at the same time, it can also be something where it usually always boils down to the similar things of like, you need to do this and do that and do this, and you need to find somebody to talk to, you need to do such and such. And there's so many problems with the general advice, I feel, for some people, especially if you're in like a very isolated state. You know, people with depression, you tell them like they need to do these things. Those people know that. People with depression know that. They know they have to do something. You know, there's different levels of it, and people handle it in different ways, but there's a lot of people that have it that know the things they should be doing, but it's a thing that makes it hard to do any of those things, even when you know that those would be the things that help you. And, you know, I feel like, obviously, that's something that it sounds so easy to say, or not easy to say, but it's easy to understand, maybe. Like, I think if you know anything about depression, even if you haven't had it, that's something that you might have heard before. But it's very true. And obviously other mental illnesses have similar issues as well. Yeah, I've seen a lot of things recently that have just been like, oh, you should also talk to somebody. And it's like, if you don't have anybody, that's the thing that I think is the hardest to understand for a lot of people, is that everybody expects, even if you're at your worst, you have somebody. That's not always the case. And because of that, there's a lot of advice that's like, find somebody to talk to, you know, start hanging out with your friends more or whatever. It's like, nah, it's more to it than that. I feel like the things of like depression and anxiety and loneliness and all those kinds of things, I feel like they really merge together a lot for a lot of people. I feel like it's probably more rare to have somebody experience just one of those things. And whether that's because one of those things caused another thing, or if, you know, I would say that all of those things are generally aspects of one another to some extent. Maybe not so much like depression and anxiety, those are different things, but I feel like loneliness really goes into depression easily. It's almost like they're the same. But it's not always a guarantee, so you can't just rope it together, because it's not always a thing with everybody. For me, though, you know, boom, like, they are linked together. Man. I feel like a lot of the sayings that are kind of thrown around, when people are open about, their mental struggles, again, specifically, like, depression and stuff, I feel like there's a lot of times where there's kind of there's a lot of those things that are said that you probably heard before, or at least seen somebody say to somebody else, or you just know, like, those are the things to say to somebody. Right? Like, if somebody came up to you and was like, oh, I'm depressed, I'm not feeling that great, like, you know, the typical sayings of, oh, you're not alone, I get it. What else? It's like, oh, everything's gonna be okay. Things like that, right? I don't know if it's just me, but something about a lot of the sayings that are linked to, you know, what should be said to somebody that's, to help somebody that's going through depression or whatever it is. I feel like a lot of those, like, expected things, because they're so expected now, because they're something that a lot of people know are, like, the things that you should be saying, it kind of feels like it's, like, out of a instruction manual, you know? It never really seems like it's actually a personalized thing, or, like, something that feels like it's honest and genuine. If I went up to somebody and I said something, you know, and I confided in them to some degree, and then they're like, oh, you're not alone, everything's gonna be okay, I'd be like, oh, fuck off. Honestly. And I know they probably come from a good place regardless, but it's like, I think personally, for me, I don't know if others can relate, but personally for me, I would want somebody to try their best to say something that they think really matters in that moment. And they may not do it perfectly, but I think I would still respect that, even if they didn't do it perfectly, even if it didn't quite get their point across or what they were thinking, or even if it was like the most impactful thing ever. If it was something that they at least were trying to put in their own 2 cents into rather than just saying the phrases that they're supposed to say, then I feel like that would really be more of a help. But alas, I don't have anyone anyways, so it doesn't matter. Nobody's saying those things. The only place I see them is online, but even then I'm like, ugh, like even online, a place where on top of all that, you also have an infinite amount of time to figure out exactly what you want to say. In a conversation, there is like there is a time and a place. If it's missed, it might not ever be said. With online posts and things, that's not always the case. Well, it usually isn't the case. You can post it whenever you want. Doesn't mean it's always going to be read, but it will be there. Maybe it has more of a chance than a normal conversation, so... But even in that scenario, it's like... I would think that I would think in that scenario there would be more of an incentive for people to write genuine feelings they have rather than just saying like, oh, remember, you're not alone. I'm not? Feels like I am. I don't know. I guess they know best. Yeah, I kind of wish that I was like someone's first choice, you know? I don't feel like I've ever had a point in my life where I could confidently say that I was like a priority to somebody. And it sounds narcissistic or selfish or whatever. I guess selfish more than anything to hope that and want that, but I don't know, I don't feel like it's that unrealistic to want that, at least from like one person, you know? Like, personally, I feel like I'm kind of on like the overarching life version of picking teams in school, you know? The whole, oh, there's 2 teams in gym class for basketball, and then you're the last one that's picked, and you just kind of have to shuffle along to the team that needs one more person. They didn't want you because they didn't pick you, but you kind of have to join them. I feel like I'm on that in most of my most aspects of life, most times that I've been with people or with friends or whatever you want to say. Because, you know, like I don't feel like I've ever had a point where somebody was like, they made a plan or they wanted to, or they had like some event going on and they were like, man, this thing's really made, this event's really like, you know, the best only when this person shows up. Oh, I'm making these plans. I kind of like, I want to go to this place. I should go with somebody. Oh, I know who I should go with. That person. I've never felt like I've been that person to anybody. And, you know, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know what everybody's thinking all the time. But, you know, I feel like with most friends that I've had in my life, this doesn't go for everybody, but I feel like it goes for most. I feel like most friends that I've had, especially like high school and beyond, have seen me more for what I can do rather than who I am. And that's not completely a bad thing. I think, you know, it's not like I don't want somebody to see me for the things that I can do either. I think, like, the things that you can do and the things you can offer to somebody for sure is very important, but at the same time, being able to just like a person for just them being themselves, and them being your first choice simply because you just like their presence. I mean, like, it just, that, to me, almost feels like unreal. Like, that doesn't happen. People don't do that, do they? I guess they do, but I can't say that I've ever felt like I've properly experienced that myself. So, I don't know, it still seems like an unbelievable thing. To a lot of people, that's probably really normal. Just yep, I like this person because of who they are, and that's it. But even then, those relationships and those connections with people are, even if it's like, oh, I just like this person for their presence, you're still offering something to somebody in that scenario, right? And it's not a bad thing, but you are still offering something to somebody. In that case, you're offering your companionship. Just like your presence is good. They just like you being there. You're offering your time to that person. Maybe comfort in some way, they're comfortable around you and you give them comfort. Whatever, right? It's still an offer of some, you are offering them something and they are happy enough with that. And other people, they want more, if it's a more intimate relationship, obviously there's all those aspects. But, some friends also like you for the things that you can do and stuff. And so I'm not saying that having friends that like you for the things that you do is a bad thing, but I think having that being the only thing and being not really a friend because of that. I've had so many people that were like friends in the past and I haven't talked to for many years, and they decided to talk to me again because, oh, hey, I was doing this thing and, stuff about this, could you help me with that or whatever, and then you do, and then you don't, it's like, oh, we should, like, hang out, we should do something, and then that never happens and you never hear from them for many years after that. They just needed your assistance for a little bit, that's really it. They knew you could do it, because your friendship was built off of, it was built primarily off of what you can offer from your skill set, and they got what they needed, and now they're out of there. So yeah, outside of my skills and abilities, and even then I always contradict myself and feel imposter syndrome and things like that half the time when I'm thinking about the things that I supposedly can do. I don't really have much more beyond that, I don't think there would really be anybody who would want me to be in their life or be their first choice, because I don't feel like I would have enough to offer. Again, you need to at least offer the companionship that people like, or whatever it is, or, a visual appeal, or whatever. There's so many different factors, but I just feel like for a lot of people, I just don't really have enough at all, or really much in any of the departments that I do have, to really, give any value that way. So I don't know. It's, I know it's not good to think that way, but at the same time, it's just like I'm trying to look at it from a logical perspective, and that's kind of the way, that's kind of what I see from that. Even if somebody saw me, right, and they were like, oh, sure, maybe you don't offer a lot, but I'm okay with that, or I see some more values that maybe you don't see, because I can understand that maybe I don't see all the things about myself that maybe somebody else would be like, no, that's cool, I like that. It's possible, I'm not going to say I have a perfect view of myself. I'm pretty confident I don't. But even then, I feel like even if I'm taking in like a few additional factors that might exist, I still just feel like if I was in a room of a bunch of different people, I feel like I'd still be like right on the bottom. I'd be the last picked on the team even then. Um, there's just like so many other reasons I can think of why somebody else would be better, and that's kind of a hard aspect. And again, that's another thing that I've seen online as well, where people will talk about, hey, you should improve yourself, you should make yourself better. And yeah, sure, you should do that. I get that. Logically, I understand that 100%. And it's like, oh, nobody's gonna care for you if you're somebody that is, you don't have confidence, you lack respect for yourself, you don't like yourself. Who's gonna like you if you don't like yourself? Who's gonna love you if you don't love yourself? Sure, but again, way easier said than done. And the other problem is, like, how do you independently on your own find a way to make yourself happy by just on your own figuring out like exactly what you want to do, exactly how you're going to do it, make yourself do it, and get to a point where you somehow are happier? It feels unrealistic without any help. It feels unrealistic. It feels like something that wouldn't happen. But you're supposed to improve yourself. But what do you do if you can't manage it? What do you do then? I personally don't know. Otherwise, I feel like I would probably be trying that. I guess the default answer I think somebody would probably immediately say would be like, oh, well, gotta get some therapy, talk to somebody. That way, professionally, they'll help you. I've also seen people talking about their experiences doing that, and some people like it, some people hate it. So it's not a straight up perfect answer for everybody anyway, on top of that. Nothing really is. And I feel as if a lot of people that have the want to provide help or to feel and be helpful in a mental health space should know that there isn't always a perfect answer to everything. There really isn't. And it seems like a lot of people are trying to provide an answer as if there is. Oh, just give yourself time, that'll work. You don't know that. You literally don't know that. It's weird that some people will say, hey, don't look at your future in a bad light. Don't look at the future and think to yourself, man, things are just going to get worse. That's not true. It'll get better. You don't know that either. How come you get to look into the future and tell me that you know that things will get better, but if I think that things will get worse by looking into the future, that I'm wrong? That doesn't really make sense. I heard in like 2013 from videos that I watched back when I was still feeling this way. A lot less, mind you, a lot less. But regardless, early ASMR videos, there were people that would literally say, things will get better, everything will be okay. Here I am. Not really. Maybe for a bit, but overall, not an overall thing. And I guess they didn't promise that. So I guess I can't blame them on that one, but it only got a little better for a small amount of time. Just a little better. And then way worse. And here we are. My parents have this longtime friend of theirs. They've been friends with them since they were in high school. Quite a long time now. And I think initially my mom was friends with this person, like first for a couple years, and then met my dad, and uh, I guess that person kind of became the third wheel in in their friendship, um, which I can relate to because that happened to me too in high school. Not really something I ever thought about, but yeah, I get it. They're still friends with them now, um, and it's weird. Even though I'd say they're friends with them now to an extent, anytime that well, even recently me and my dad went and we went to go watch Thunderbolts asterisk um, in the theater, and that friend also wanted to go, so it was me and my dad and their one friend, and initially I thought it was just gonna be me and my dad, and then he was like, "Oh, also, so and so's coming." And whenever they bring that person up, it's always in a, like, eh, ugh, kind of way. It's like, are you really a friend at that point? I don't know. But I mean, they're the one reaching out and insisting, so I guess, sure. I don't think that person's that bad, but they're not perfect either, and they definitely have problems. But I think a lot of it is the fact that they live on their own. They're not in like a relationship or anything like that. They're trying to get by with what they can do. I wouldn't say they're in like the best living conditions overall. Not unhealthy, just not like a great house that they have. They're trying to do the best they can with it, of course, but and it's definitely not ideal for them, but they're making it work, and they're still trying to hang out with people they know. So respect, I would say. At the same time, when I was growing up, they were always this like example that my parents would use to be like, don't be like this person. Don't don't be like them, Be more social, do more things. And I would say I did alright. Yes, I could have done lots more, but, there's a certain extent where it's like being true to yourself and just really going full, just full throttle into whatever thing because you were like, well, I was told to have more experiences, so now I'm going to a party where we all do cocaine. Not quite. I don't think I was gonna quite do that. Actually, apparently one of my school dances, somebody did that at the school dance. So, hey, I guess not too far off. I don't know if it was confirmed true or not, so that was probably not a real thing, but who knows? I wouldn't know. I wasn't there. But, anyway. It's one of those things where I've realized as I've gotten a little older, again, past 21, that, I kind of have become like that person, like that friend. Unintentionally so. It's weird, it's... I felt like most of my life I was doing really good not to be on that path, but no matter what, I kind of ended up in it anyway. Just alone on my own, not really doing that well. Getting by for now, that kind of thing. Like, I'm pretty much doing that now. Again, it's not exactly the same, but it is not far off. It's weird to grow up and have this sort of life path given to you, to an extent, obviously. It's an outline. You fill it in your own way, but it's still something that generally you follow. You go to school, you learn certain things, you go to high school, you learn things, but you have a bit more of an option, and then college, you're supposed to know literally exactly what you want to do and do that, and then You know, you're off into the real world, and for a lot of people that can take about 20 years generally, if not more. And I just feel like, 20 years of my life growing up, I had this idea of where I was going, what I wanted to do, how I wanted to do it, and once I got there, I felt like I was immediately shut down, and then it's been hard to really ever recover since then. And because of that, I don't know, it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, I put like 20 years of work into building up into something, and then nothing. It's like the loaded, the slowest loading bar ever that literally did nothing. And that's kind of just how I generally feel like most of the time when I'm thinking about life and how I've lived it. I did good in school. I did all right. I tried my best all the time. When it came to college, I went to college for film and things like that. It's a creative thing, but still knowing how to use the tools effectively that you have to tell a story in that format is still very important. And I did my best to try to do as good as I can and be as creative, but also perform as professionally as possible. And I think I did really well. But even then, now that that's over, it's like, I don't know. I don't know if I truly do enjoy that or not. I don't know. Like, I did it and I did well at it, but do I want to dedicate my life to it? I never really thought of that until after I was done. Which is not the way to go about it, but that's the way I went about it. So, I don't know. It just sucks to follow that path for so long, and then now I'm at a point where, like, there really isn't anything that makes me happy or gives me satisfaction or anything like that. And, like, a part of me is like, I don't know what would. I don't know if, like, finding the right thing in my life to do with it would help. I don't know if finding the right person to, do those things for would help. I don't know. I'm not quite sure. That one seems more dystopian and not the one you should be going for, but I feel like some people have that, and that's exactly, the way they get by. Is they have that person. They are somebody's first choice, and that's enough for them to do a million other things in their life. Just to keep that going. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't actually know, but, yeah. I'm not quite sure. Lately, I feel probably the loneliest when, like, my parents have gone to bed. I usually stay up a bit later. I'm a bit of a night owl. And, there's just a few hours between my parents going to bed, me being awake, and me going to bed. And those hours, for me, I feel like that's some of the worst of it. That and just trying to fall asleep in general. Those are the two hardest times, I would say, at least for me, when it comes to lonely feelings. Because the hours before going to bed, I kind of realized, like, I just have nothing to do. I have I have this time, but I don't know what I want to spend it on. I don't know what I want to spend that time on. And if I was to spend it on somebody, I have nobody to spend it on either. And so it's just kind of time that withers away for no reason. And then, by the time it's, it's time for me to sleep now, I don't know, I just kind of, I start to overthink. I start to think about, like, what it would be like to, have somebody there next to me, and I've talked about those things already. I feel like the last little while, it's just that feeling has been growing and growing, and don't really know what I can do to stop that. It just kind of happens and exists. I don't really know. So, yeah, um, it's not great. I do, though, feel lonely in places that aren't so isolated either. You know, even though I feel lonely in my bed because I have to go to bed every night, not like just with the expectation that nothing's waiting for me there. No one's waiting for me there. And I just have to go into bed and hope that I can stop overthinking about all the problems that I have and relax through it all to fall asleep. And lately, I have not been able to. I've been having some insomnia the past couple nights, which is not great. But hey, you know, hopefully we'll get through it. Eventually I'll stop being like, oh god, everything's terrible, oh no! But I'm really tired. Oh. I'm really tired. I'm gonna go to bed now. Sorry, that was a unintentional cut. I hit the pop filter off my microphone. I was getting so passionate about it. But yeah, anyway, I don't remember what I was saying. I was saying something about nighttime and bedrooms and stuff. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I do get lonely in other places too that aren't just, you know, personal places, you know, just isolated by yourself in a bedroom or something. I also feel that way in, like, really public spaces. Things like if I'm at my local mall or something like that. Because it's so many examples of people, like, having a better time than me, so I see that and I kind of feel worse about myself, especially if I have to, like, go there alone or something like that, which, doesn't happen too often, and when I say that, I don't mean that I'm going there with people often, it's just more so that I'm not at my local mall often. But close by my mall, I actually have to go through the mall to go to a dentist, which I don't do very often, but when I have to, it's like those are the times where I'm on my own going through my local mall, and then it's like, it doesn't feel great. So many people are with other people having a good time, and then there's just me, like, I guess I'm here too now. So, I don't know, that's kind of when I feel more lonely and isolated than anything, at least in, like, a public setting. And I've had times where it felt so bad that I just felt like, literally just, like, I don't want to say pain in my chest, but like a hollowness and emptiness, like a sinking feeling just in the chest. And I'm not sure if, like, it was definitely because of that isolation and that sort of thing, and being on my own, but at the same time, I felt like it was more pain caused by the thought of, like, that's how it's always gonna be. And, like, that's my future, and this is what everybody else is like. And I think that was more so what was causing the pain, but I don't really know. I have no idea. I'm not sure. I've only ever had it a couple times, but, usually it's in public settings when I'm just, like, not in the mood to see a bunch of people being like, yippee, yay, I'm so happy to see you, I'm so happy to see you, haha. I'm like, I would be so happy to not be here and not see you. But yeah. Sorry, that sounded a little more mean-spirited than I wanted that to come across as, but, you know. Not untrue, though. You know, when I was younger, when I was brought along to, like, family gatherings and stuff, I would always be, like, the kid that would sort of be seen as like, oh, you're doing really well, and you know, distant relatives would see me and my parents would say certain things about me or whatever, and they'd be like, oh, that's really good, and it's like, wow, you're doing really well, and it's like, so you want to do that, blah blah blah, and they'd be interested, they'd want to know, and like, yes, I'm a kid at that time, of course, so it makes more sense to engage in that way with a child, but at the same time, I'm like, man, There is an eventual point where, like, the last family gathering or two that I went to, I kind of existed. Nobody really cared that I was there at that point. It changed from a shift of like, wow, that's really cool. It's like, you're doing really well. That's interesting, to, like, it almost felt like disgust that I was there. I know that wasn't exactly the case, but it felt like that to me inside. Everybody had their clique of people that they were with, the people that they were talking to, that they wanted to talk to, and that sort of thing. Whenever I'm at a family gathering, it's been a little while now, but every time that I'm at a family gathering, it's always like, man, I hate being here right now. Everybody has a reason to be here. Everybody's here because they want to be, and I'm here usually, typically, because I'm forced to be. My parents don't drive, and I do, so that's usually the catalyst. And, it's like, okay, great, cool. And now I just kind of exist here without really a reason to talk to anybody there. And it's in moments like that, or at, like, my local mall, where I hope and kind of think about, like, what could change about this moment to make me happier than I am right now. And yeah, there's a lot of things, but usually the big one is always like, if I was here with somebody that I was their first choice, and they were my first choice, they were my person and I was their person, that would be ideal. Yes, I realize that's asking a lot, at least especially nowadays, seemingly, but man, it would be great, you know? Just to have that one person that's like, they are also not happy to be at this family reunion that you drag them along to. In that scenario, they probably wouldn't even be, well, hopefully they would not be part of the family reunion. They were just brought along as, like, you know, because you wanted them to come with you. And you can just be happy knowing that they're there. They don't want to be there, and you don't want to be there, but you don't have a choice, and at the very least you can suffer through it together instead of on your own. It's as simple as shit, but man, that would mean a lot. Something as simple as that would mean so much. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I got Hinge a few years ago now, actually. If you don't know what that is, it's a dating app, that I was like, I don't know why. It was around the start of 2022, early 2022, and I was like, I don't know, I've never really made like a definitive choice to leap into the world of dating. I'm like, you know what, screw it. Let me get a dating app and kind of see what happens. And at that time, Hinge was not super new, but it was still new enough that people were like, oh, okay, this is like the new, like, hip app for dating. So we'll go to it. So that's why I chose it. And I did that. I set up my profile and everything, blah, 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 whatever. Yeah, it was weird when I first used it. One, it was like, oh my god, taking like a photo of myself for this thing took ages. It took me like an hour to get one that I generally liked enough. I didn't really like any of them, but it was one that worked enough. The other thing was the fact that it's like, oh, the amount of questions that you can answer and the amount of answers that you can give is like, man, you really got to figure out the definitive questions you want to be on your profile, that you can, you know, answer, but you also want to give your best answer for them. So just setting up all those things took forever, but that's not the important bit. It didn't take long for me to realize, like, going through the pictures, that a lot of the presented women on there were either, like, not my type at all, or they were, but they were way out of my league. And so it was just one of those eye-opening things of like, man, yeah, alright, I understand now. I am not built for this. And, yeah. And I have one other definitive thing of proof, and I still have that app on my phone. Um, and it's only because, sometimes I just like to see, oh, is there, other people in the area trying this out now that weren't on here before. But also, and the main reason that I keep it on there is because it shows you how many, like, likes or whatever that you get on your profile from other people. Um, and I've had Hinge since the start of 2022, and we're like, entering the second half of 2025. And how many likes have I gotten? Two. Two. The one person I wasn't super into, but she seemed nice enough, and the other person seemed nice in a lot of other ways, but maybe a little mean overall. So it didn't really seem like it was a good choice either way. And so I was like, I didn't send likes back. And by the time that I got my second one, it was like, no, you have to respond to this one before you can move on to your next one, or pay for like their subscription service or whatever. And it's like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. um, so yeah, it was just kind of eye-opening, that sort of thing. Like, 2 likes, any like that I sent, nothing happened with it. It was like, man, this is supposed to be something that helps dating, but I feel like it's literally making it worse in some weird way. Not that it was really much else beforehand for me either, but man, it was bad. But I still have it on my phone. And when I first had the app, I had it for maybe about 3 months or so, and I had an Android update on my phone, and my dad is very techie, and he likes to, partake in a lot of techie things and just anything that's interesting. And I was like, oh, I have an update on my phone. And he's like, oh, let me see it. And he immediately wanted to see it. He wanted to go through and just, like, see the process or something. I don't know. He always wants to know with updates to phones. So I'm like, okay, fine. So I give it to him. And I forgot to take Hinge off of my, like, second page home screen, which I only had that app on. And he happened to scroll to it and see it. And I was like, oh, God, I don't know how I'm going to feel. But I felt not great about that. But then I felt even worse because, not long after seeing that, he basically just looked up at me and kind of like chuckled and laughed at it. And at the time I was like, funny, whatever, you weren't expecting that, so on and so forth. But I was like, thinking back on it, it was almost like a, haha, I can't believe you're doing that because what's the point? From my dad. Oh boy, man. Wow. That sucks. And I just think about that from time to time. I'm like, wow, really? I've lost all the faith, even then, in the idea of making something work out in a romantic way. Which, yeah, I get it. I should have accepted at this point that, like, really, nothing's happening. It's not going to. And, like, again, what would I have to offer in a relationship anyway? I think I'd be terrible, I'd always be worried about messing things up and doing the wrong thing. There's so many other people out there that have had at least, like, their first little bit of experience in a relationship, so they would automatically be better than me just in that category alone. And so, I don't know, I feel like there's so many better candidates as well. And even if I was chosen in a romantic sense or whatever, I just feel like I'd be so apt to do the wrong things because basically any relationship I ever get into, if I ever do, has the expectation of me being perfect on the first go. And that sucks. Don't love that. But I guess that's what I will have to do at some point. So, yeah. I don't know if I'm coming across as different in this video at all. I'm recording this at a different time of day. I've usually been doing these at night, so I'm doing this in the middle of the day where I'm just alone in my house right now. Um, so yeah, it gives me a little bit more freedom to speak because at night, I do have my parents on the other side of the house, but it's still possible that they could hear me. So I'm a little bit more free to be a little bit louder and a little bit more, or less worried about that. So I figured it was a good idea to try because of that. Um, I'm getting sleepy though. I'm not a morning person. Um, but anyway, um, I had this moment of derealization a little while ago, which is that sort of thing that can happen where you sort of view yourself as like a stranger, like you see your face maybe in a mirror or a photo or a video or something, and it's like, who is that person? That's not me. And then you kind of like disconnect from yourself for a bit. And it's not a good thing, but I kind of like it a little bit, just for like a little bit of time. I don't want it to be that way all the time, and I don't want it to happen very often. But every once in a while, I enjoy it. And the reason why is because it allows me to have a perspective on myself that is, unique. That is from like the perspective of somebody else, and I'm not looking at myself from my own point of view, and so I can kind of get like an unbiased um, glimpse at myself and like oh, this is what somebody else sees when they see me rather than me seeing me and my expectation. And I had that happen recently, and I was like in my bathroom, and I just happened to look at myself, and I'm like, whoa, and then I'm like, oh, who, like, I know that's me, but it doesn't feel like me right now. Um, and then I was like, man, disgusting. I was like disgusted, literally. I didn't think I was like, in hugely terrible shape that day or anything like that. I'm not gonna say it was like peak appearance of me, but yeah, I was just like, man, ugh. I was just disgusted in some way. I was like, I don't like the look of this person that is me. And I was like, man, this is what people could possibly see from an outside perspective. Man, it was worse than I thought. So that's kind of been hitting me hard a little bit. I haven't really been sleeping too much for that reason. As well as just thinking about a bunch of terrible shit. And just, hopelessness. Um, for the future. And because of that, I also have moments where I'm like, just crying in bed. Not a lot. I don't cry much at all, but just a little bit here and there, and it's been more consistent than it ever has been. Just because I feel like it's like, no matter what I do, I feel like I'm not gonna be able to make anything better. Like if I look at my life in a critical way, like if I was to get like a job and I was working out more and I was losing weight better, which I'm trying to do, but not a lot of progress at the moment. That's noticeable anyway. But I'm doing all of these things. I'm like, is it gonna matter anyway? Am I gonna just end up working at this job for, a couple years, and then that's not really gonna go anywhere, and I'm gonna do this other thing, and that's not gonna go anywhere, and it's just, I don't know, I feel like right now, at this point, I feel like I can't really do much of anything, and so that kind of upsets me a lot. And I can't help but just kind of tear up over it a little bit. And I had a morning where I was like I cried the night before, and I woke up and I just happened to turn my phone on, and I accidentally slid it to the camera automatically, and I was like, man, I didn't have derealization then, not fully anyway, but I was like, man, that same disgust, if not worse. I felt like my face had gotten like, you know, at least like 10 centimeters wider. It was like, or at least like or a couple inches wider, whatever would best work for you. It was like, it was weird, man. It wasn't a filter, it was just the way the camera was. But I was like, man, I just felt really bad that day. Which sucks. Because I obviously, you know, looking at yourself in a camera live right there and going, ugh, to yourself without any derealizations, even worse, I'd say. Literally, you're like, wow, that's me, and man, I hate it. It's basically what happened. Unfortunately so. So yeah, I don't know. On top of everything, on top of feeling like terrible, and I know I should be doing the things to try to help myself out and all that, but at the same time, I'm also just trying to do things that make myself feel happy and in some way a little bit better than the day before. I'm not succeeding so far, but hopefully I manage at some point. But probably about not quite a year ago, I would say. Not far off though, almost a year ago now. My dad went on a trip. Actually, my mom and dad went on a trip to Toronto for a couple of days, and I woke up in the morning. They had already left, and there was a note on the counter, on the kitchen counter, and I was like, "That's interesting. I will read that later." Because I had a feeling it wasn't going to be good, so I read it before I went to bed that night, and it was basically my dad being like, "Hey, what do you want to do with your life? You're wasting away. It sucks. What are you doing? You should do something. Your mom's not happy about it. You should figure it out." And then he was like, you know, because of that, like, until you figure out what you're doing, you're gonna be paying $300 in rent every month. And so, you know, like, I get their intention behind that, but the way that that has felt so far is that every month, and I'm always reminded, like, literally on the second day if I don't do it, is basically like, hey, you've been depressed and feeling like shit, and we don't like that, so now you have to pay to continue being here if you want to, you know, live somewhere. So I'm basically, like, I pay $300 to be depressed and feel unwelcomed in my home, which is really cool. And look, they're allowed to do it. I'm not saying they're not, but oh, it sucks having to do. And then I'm like out more money, so then I don't buy as much, which, you know, I shouldn't do. So in fairness, and I don't feel like I'm too bad at it. This year I've been a little bit worse because, you know, Nintendo Switch 2 exists. But you know, I've generally been pretty good, and I just don't get as much now in the times when I'm like, I want something just to help with the bad feelings for a little bit, but I can't do it. I gotta pay the rent. But yeah, no, I get my parents' intention, but it feels bad. Like, hey, you felt really shit this month? That sucks. $300, please. It's basically what it is. Not that they know that, not that they know that that's the way that I feel about it and that they like that. They just think I'm being lazy. It's not what I'm doing. I mean, I am, but as a side effect of many other things. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. Anyway, I think I'm gonna leave that here for now. You know, there's a lot more I could probably talk about for a very long time, but I don't know, man. I know that, like, at the end of the day, my life is not overall terrible. It's not, it's just kind of miserable more than anything. It's not unlivable or bad or anything like that. It's just kind of overall miserable. There are a lot of other people in the world that have like much worse shit going on, and so that's where the help for anything should really go. But yeah, it's still stuff I think about. So, in case somebody finds that interesting in some way, then yeah. There'd be a lot of people out there that would see my life and be like, man, it's pretty much a blank slate, and they'd be really happy about that. They'd be super happy about that, but for me, I'm like, there was stuff in it, and now it's a blank slate, and I don't feel like I have the effort left in me to, you know, fill up the platter again. I don't know, I was trying something. Anyway, you know what I mean. Well, that's gonna be all for me for today. Thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate any of you guys that are here and take the time to listen and watch. I realize this one's probably been the longest one so far. I don't know that at the moment of saying this, but I have a feeling we've been going for a little while, so, yeah. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. It might be a bit before the next video, but, yeah. I'll be around. I'll probably make some posts or something like that if you're, curious about anything. Anyway, that's all for now. And I hope that you have a good rest of your day and that you do well. See ya.